Okay, we're unmuted, just so everybody knows. Mics are live.
I'm just trying to work.
I'm gonna have to share my screen.
Is it this letter? Oh, no, this wasn't your house.
I think I got a copy.
I'm giggling because we still have a token man and we didn't make
Yeah.
the all female board that he took the man's position, so.
Am I supposed to be dressed up for this?
No,
No,
Okay.
we'll let you know when there's pictures.
I think we're gonna get home. She told us she'd warn us when we have to have makeup.
I'll learn.
Sorry.
Perfect.
Did I?
There's still.
Right.
Yeah.
Read it.
Yeah.
Get number 3:45 and then.
I hope I didn't
do shower and shoved up in your face. That'll be here. I didn't even know.
Do you want me to look on the phone and see what's going up?
Yeah, would you?
Absolutely.
Straight to the church.
I mean, I just pulled, there it is. Oh, Eric, can you hear me? I might have to unmute you. Hold on.
Yep, I hear you.
Good. Can you guys hear me? Yes. Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure we're working.
How is everybody?
We're good. We're just hoping our electronics work. Yep, it's 1 more minute.
See it coming up. Or maybe under live.
Let's see.
Apple.
Box.
I said, not holding up, I should just hold it.
Do a full house.
Guys, fans.
Mhm.
On the city room.
It's not on YouTube, we're on Zoom. That's why I thought you had the Zoom. I was like, that's impressive. You have our numbers memorized.
No, I was looking to see who.
Yeah, no, we're on Zoom because we have Eric today. I'll upload the Zoom video to YouTube tonight. 5 o'clock. We'll call this organizational meeting of the Common Council to order on Tuesday, April 21st, 2026 at 5 p.m. Can I have a roll call, please? Springvall, here. Kelly, here. Claire. Here. Bill. Holly.
Here.
Dorothy, here. We got everybody here. There's a quorum, thank you. We'll move on to number 2, which is the ceremonial swearing in of alderpersons.
So would all the older persons that were recently elected, so wards 1, 3, 5, and 6, stand and raise your right hand. And repeat after me. I state your name. Having been elected or appointed to the office of alderperson, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially
And faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of said office
discharge the duties of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Good job. All right, thank you. Does anybody want pictures first before we move on? Come on, nobody? Tracy. You wanna go down there again?
No, I'm just, so it doesn't vibrate.
Oh, it's not on that side. The family pictures? Good,
Good, thank you.
Jamie? Good. Missy, do you want your picture?
Good. Cause I have my entourage. You're gonna bring all the cats, I guess.
All right,
All right.
we will move on to number 3, which is the alderperson orientation. Recommendation is listen to our city attorney and staff presentations on open meetings laws, public records, ethics laws, quasi judicial action, and other duties and responsibilities of the common council, and then ask questions as needed. Family waiting. It's gonna be a fun next few minutes-ish.
It'll be super, super fun.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to hang around, you don't have to. This is your cue if you want to hit the road. But you're more than welcome to stay if you want. All right, we have our attorney, Eric Larson, on our Zoom up here. He's going to lead us through our presentation.
Thank you. Congratulations to the new alder persons. Thank you for your service. I can only imagine the thrill you got when you saw this agenda and got to hear that you got to hear from the city attorney tonight, talking about these numerous items. So before I start, I just want to sort of set an expectation. I know that we've done this before, but we have some new people. And I want to be sure to cover the basics, but I could do that in 20 minutes. I could do it in 45 minutes. I could do it in an hour and a half. I guess, is there a sense of how quickly we should go through this?
We have a Board of Appeals meeting at 6 o'clock or following, but if we could keep it under an hour, it would be fabulous. Is it 45?
Yeah, I would shoot for the 40-minute version.
40-ish minute version would be
Okay.
amazing.
Awesome. I think I see blue packets on your table, which would be this.
Yep.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to be going through these packets. It's always best if I'm speaking to issues that are on your mind. So if at any point now or as we go, there's something on your mind, a question, a concern, I would be happy to address those. I think it would be most helpful to everybody if we focused in on those kinds of things. I've been doing this a long time. I've been practicing law for more than 35 years. All of those years are representing municipalities. I have 30-some municipalities that I represent on a regular basis. And these questions and issues that we're going to deal with tonight, I deal with my municipalities all the time. These are not arcane, they're not, distant, they're not things that you'll never have to deal with. These are things that are sort of the meat and potatoes or central to representing municipalities is you have to understand your role as a public official on these issues. I'm going to be talking about Wisconsin public records laws, Wisconsin open meetings laws, some protections against bias, ethical obligations, and this packet includes residency appeals. I think when we prepared it last year, that was a particular issue that we wanted to cover. And I will mention it quickly at the end. So let's jump in. At the first tab, 20 important things to know about the Wisconsin Public Records Law. Thing one, which isn't on here, but you should know that as a public official, you are the custodian of your records. You're an authority. You have an obligation to maintain the records of your office for 7 years. So, if, for example, you're using a computer from home and you have conversation with or texting your phone, texting with a constituent about some public business, something that's coming before the council, that creates a record and that needs to be maintained. If you, my recommendation is you allow city staff to maintain that for you. And the way you do that is you forward it to Jesse or other city staff as appropriate, and ask them to maintain it for you. Otherwise, you have to maintain it. And that happens every day. So what'll happen if you don't maintain it that way, when we get records requests for records of your office, somebody gets wind of the fact that you've been communicating with a developer, for example, and you have an email string with the developer, you have to produce it. You have to find it in your computer and produce it. And so again, thing one, yeah.
I was just gonna add a comment that it's a good practice. We don't have city emails for every alderperson, which is something we should look into. However, it's a good idea to start a new email address that is dedicated just to the city. So that when they do have these public records requests, it's easy to go through these email addresses to find anything you might need.
That's a great point. Yes, it won't necessarily prevent somebody from trying to search your other account to
Right.
see what there are city business in your other account, but it minimizes it, and it also makes it easier for you if you get a records request to know where you can look for that, So item 1 in this list, public records law shall be construed in every instance with a presumption of complete public access consistent with the conduct of governmental business. The denial of public access generally is contrary to the public interest, and only in an exceptional case may access be denied. That's the statement of public purpose from the state statute. And when courts get these issues, and they're litigated all the time, they almost without exception will start with that statement of public purpose. Unless there's a really good reason to deny access to the record, it has to be provided. So what's a record? Item 2, a record is any material on which written, drawn, printed, spoken, visual, or electromagnetic information is recorded or preserved, regardless of physical form or characteristics, which has been created or is being kept by an authority. Again, you are an authority. The council is an authority. Any method of communication it can create a record and does create a record. Posting on a social media page is something that I strongly caution against. But if you do post on a social media page about the conduct of your business, that creates a public record and it needs to be maintained. I'm not going to go through every one of these. If you get a records request, a response needs to be provided as soon as practicable and without delay. It's number 9 here. That's straight from the statute. You should contact Jesse and let Jesse know, hey, I got this records request, because the city staff deal with this all the time. They will be happy to help you with your response. They may even provide the response for you. But if it's documents that only you have, we can't gather the documents for you, but you can forward the documents to staff and staff can handle the response.
Eric, can you go back a second and touch base on social media? I know
Yeah.
that we're in a technology-based world and I don't want everybody to get scared off and think they can never post on Facebook again. I know that there's case law between personal comments and comments as an older person acting as on behalf of the city of Berlin. Can you just clarify between personal comments and comments of those as an older person?
You're absolutely right. There is case law on that, including the U.S. Supreme Court, which on the one hand kind of shows how heavily these issues are litigated. But if you're posting as a private individual, my suggestion number 1 is you should say that. I am posting as a private citizen of Berlin. Make that super clear. Then you can say whatever you want. But be careful even then, because if it's about something that's coming before the council, for reasons that we'll get into later in the presentation, you may have, you don't necessarily want to show your hand if it's a quasi-judicial matter, especially because you may disqualify yourself from acting on the matter when it comes before the council if you show a bias on some things. So, I mean, the general point is absolutely right. You can post as a private citizen. I recommend you make that clear. But even when you're posting as a private citizen, be careful if it's something that's going to come before the council.
And then just one last caveat I want to say about that one is we live in a small community, so we're involved in similar activities. And the last thing on social media I was going to say is we just have to be very careful of multiple people commenting on posts so that there's not a walking quorum. So if one person has already commented something, there doesn't need to be 3 or 4 of us commenting same.
You're stealing my thunder. I was going to get to that.
Sorry.
You're absolutely right. That is the other problem with social media is it can create a walking quorum, and we'll get to what a walking quorum is. It's not a records problem, it's an open meetings problem. And we'll talk more about that as we go.
I'll be quiet now, I'm sorry.
I was not, I was joking. You know, really good point. Um, I'm not gonna go through the rest of these things. When records are produced, often there will be some that are denied. Some parts of the request may be denied. Uh, Any denial needs to be in writing. It needs to explain the reasons for the denial. Even if it's a redaction, you're striking out the juvenile name on a police report. You need to explain why. Why did you redact it? Our courts, if we're challenged on failure to release documents or on redactions, the only reasons we can use in court are the reasons we give in that denial letter. So it needs to be carefully worded denial letter if we're ever going to deny access to a record. All right, let's go on to, unless there are any other questions about records, let's go on to open meetings. As with public records, at any given time, I probably have half a dozen lawsuits involving public records. I probably have half a dozen lawsuits involving open meetings in the office. Not necessarily my clients, but we represent municipalities throughout the state when they get sued, and these are common issues to be sued on. Let's just start at the top of this outline. Again, there's a very broad statement of public purpose. I won't read it again on page 5, but our courts refer to that statement all the time, saying the public is entitled to the fullest and most complete information regarding the affairs of government. And then it says to implement and ensure the public policy herein expressed, all meetings of all state and local governmental bodies shall be publicly held in places reasonably accessible to members of the public and shall be open to all citizens at all times unless otherwise expressly provided by law. So on the next page, it applies to all governing bodies. One of the issues I face from time to time is the council will delegate authority over something to, and you'll say who, 2 members of the council and this citizen and that citizen are going to meet and they're going to develop a policy. Well, you've probably created a governmental body. You need to be careful when you do that you don't. If you create a governmental body by creating that ad hoc committee, you need to notice the meetings and the public is invited. Which isn't the end of the world necessarily, but it needs to be done. There's a lot of case law where communities think they didn't do that. They think this wasn't the council meeting. This was the group that got together to, advise the council or do some homework. Well, the cases are pretty consistent saying, no, you created a body and then the open meetings law applied. What is subject to the law? It's a meeting. Listen to this definition. Meeting means the convening of a governmental body for the purpose of exercising responsibilities, authority, power, or duties delegated to or vested in the body. If 1/2 or more of the members of the governmental body are present, the meeting is rebuttably presumed to be for the purpose of exercising the responsibilities, authority, power, or duties delegated to or vested in the body. The term does not include any social or chance gathering or conference which is not intended to avoid this subchapter. The biggest caution I can give you here, I'm not concerned if you happen to run into a quorum of people at the grocery store, just don't talk business. I think we can say, no, we're all talking about buying these canned peas, or whatever. Um, it is your burden of proof. If they allege they saw you together, it's up to you to prove that it was just a chance gathering. But that's not going to be hard in that setting. Where it's harder is you leave the council meeting, you're heading to your car, you stand around somebody's car chit-chatting, and the public who was at your meeting sees you doing that. That's where a lot of these sort of leave the chance gathering arena and enter a possible violation because honestly, you probably are talking about the meeting, right? You just went through some horrendous thing at the meeting. It was contentious. The public was up in arms, and uh, it's still on your mind, and you're decompressing, and you were human beings, and so you're chit-chatting about it. But that's talking about governmental business, and that's a meeting. So my caution is, when the meeting is over, when you're adjourned, you get up and leave, um, because the public is watching you. And if they think you're violating, they might be right. And so just watch out for that one. Same as, when you arrive, before the meeting, don't start talking about things that are on the agenda before the meeting starts for those same reasons. All of the governmental activity should happen during the meeting. Negative quorum on page 7. So you currently have a 7-member board. And I know that there's talk about reducing that, but
Not
on a,
reducing,
huh?
not reducing, just opening up to at-large representation instead of.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I have another community that's reducing. Sorry. So it's easy to think that the quorum is going to be 4. So that if 3 of you are talking, you're not in violation. That's a easy thing to assume. There are a couple problems with that. One is not every issue is decided by a simple majority vote. So that depends, if you're talking about something that requires a supermajority vote, you may trigger this negative quorum issue, which is the number of people who can prevent it from being adopted. You can't have the number of people that could prevent it from being adopted talking together because they can control the outcome. So if it requires a supermajority and 3 of you are talking, that's a violation. It's a negative quorum. Also, and this one's even harder, but if you know someone's going to be absent, if you know somebody on the council is, having surgery and they're out for 3 months or whatever, then your 3-member rule of thumb isn't going to work even for a majority vote because 3 wouldn't control the outcome or could control the outcome on that issue. Next page, walking quorum. this law has been settled for 40 years or so since a decision was reached by our Wisconsin courts. Finding that even though each person only talked to one other person, one member called another member, who called another member, who called another member, that can, even though you weren't all there at the same time, that can create a quorum who have an aligned position. And that happened outside of a meeting. So the public had no opportunity to know that that was happening. That's a walking quorum and it's a violation. Walking quorum issues are also relevant on the telephone and even by email. And there's a long section of this outline starting on page 8 about email. I recommend you read it. I'm not going to hit every point here, but if you have the whole council on an email message where you're going back and forth, our courts have looked, or certainly our commentators and our courts have looked at that for telephone, and for email, it's the same issue where it looks like it's a meeting. It's happening in real time. And you're talking about governmental business and the public isn't invited. They have no access to that. And then you say, well, but we've created a record. That's true. That's not good because it's very easy open meetings law violation to prove. All somebody has to do is request a copy of that email exchange and present it to a court, and you will be found guilty of a violation because it will show that a quorum of you were talking about governmental business by email. It is a record and it will be maintained, but the public did for open meetings law purpose. It doesn't meet the requirements of the open meetings law. So some practical suggestions starting on page 10. If you do communicate to the whole council, the same way you would with writing it out on paper, putting a stamp on it and sending it to the people, that's not an open meetings law violation. Sending an email, sending a U.S. Postal Service mail letter to your colleagues on the council is not an open meetings law violation. You can also do that by email. Just send it one way and make sure it's super clear that you do not want a response. The problem is I still recommend against that because it's so easy for that to be violated. It just takes one person to say, okay, or, just an acknowledgement, and now everybody's in violation. You will get emails from staff all the time. That's what staff does, and that's their job. And when they send you one-way communications, you can respond back to the staff person who sent it to you, but don't respond to the whole council. And there will be reminders about that in those emails from staff. They will say, do not reply all. If you have private conversation among alders, one alder to another, that alone is probably not a violation. But it has to stay between the two of you. It can't expand. And that needs to be well understood by everybody on that communication. Problem with email is you can't control it. You send it and now it's out of your hand. You can't control it. And so you can't prevent a violation from happening. What you can do is put a disclaimer on your message, and I recommend that you do that. In that email account that you create a signature. If you know how to do that, it'll automatically put a disclaimer that you can type into the signature part of the program. It'll automatically put a disclaimer on all of your messages. And there are a couple of examples of disclaimers you could use. One is a little less fewer words than the other, and you can tinker with those a little bit, but the idea is, say in there, I'm intending to communicate to the person I'm sending it to and to nobody else. Do not forward it, do not reply, or reply all. And if somebody forwards it and creates a violation, that may protect you saying, hey, I told them not to do that. That was not my intent. Next point, retention policy. You need to find a way to retain your email messages. Again, the rule of thumb is 7 years. All records need to be maintained for 7 years. So given that you don't have city emails, that means it's on you. Each of you need to find a way to retain those emails. It'll be easier if you create a separate account for all city business. Make sure that the account retains messages that long. Use discretion in what you say in an email. It's one thing on the phone to say, loosely, that guy's an idiot. I wouldn't believe a word he says, and then you hang up and it's over and nobody's wiser. But if you say that in an email, somebody just needs to make a records request for it. And then those things you said can be printed in the newspaper. It can be the newspaper headline in the morning. So be cautious with the words you say in an email. All right, I'm going to move a little quicker here. Public comments are always a hot topic. Everyone loves the idea of the public commenting. It's good public policy to listen to your residents. In practice, it can become contentious. Be sure that it doesn't become an open meetings law violation. When a member of the public comes to you and says, I'm really concerned about issue X, you can ask them what their concern is, flesh that out a little bit to be sure you understand, but don't engage in back and forth, because that issue X is not on our agenda as something you're going to be talking about. There might be 100 people out there interested in issue X. If you're really going to talk about issue X, you should put it over to your next agenda, and you can tell them that. You can say, let's put this as an agenda item on our next agenda so we can talk about it. Because the open meetings law requires that you give notice of the subjects that you're going to be talking about. So when a citizen raises it and it's brand new, that's not something you should be talking about. You should just be listening. You should be listening to the public comments. Okay. Um, there are penalties that apply to violations. They're not huge, but they are personal. They apply to you personally if you violate. City can't pay for it, even if they want to. Um, that's not the worst part of the violation. The worst part is it's egg on your face. It's public. You look bad. That's not the reason you went into government and become a public official. So don't let that egg get on your face. All right, I want to jump ahead. Well, I guess we're getting close here. Um, the next document on page 20 is protection of bias, against bias. You have two roles as a public official. One is as a legislator, and that's the role you have on almost everything. The other is as judge. There are times when you sit as judge, quasi-judicial capacity. When you're a legislator, it doesn't matter if you're biased. It doesn't matter if you told the whole world, I'm totally against that project. I'm running for office because I hate that project. I'm going to vote against that project. That's all perfect when you're acting as a legislator. Not a problem at all. But if that project has a quasi-judicial aspect, like they need a conditional use permit. A conditional use permit is quasi-judicial. You sit as judge to see whether they meet the standards for getting a conditional use. You cannot be biased. You can't have expressed bias. You need to sit as a judge and be fair to and base your decision on what you hear at the public hearing. So at this point, I'm just pointing out that you have those two roles, and you need to be especially cautious if you think that there could be a quasi-judicial aspect to something that might be coming before you, and then preserve your non-prejudicial position. Like a judge, you wouldn't want to appear before a judge who's announced that he thinks this person committed a crime, right? If he's announced or she's announced that they think you did it, you don't want to appear before them, and it would be unethical. So let's go on to ethics quickly. There is a code of ethics for local governmental officials starting on page 21. If you read this, you will quickly be scratching your head. This is law. It's not written in layman's terms. This is complicated law as to your obligations. You can't use your office to obtain financial gain or anything of substantial value for the private benefit of yourself or anyone in your immediate family or an organization with which you're associated. That's just 1A. I'm not going to read them all. The bottom line on ethics is if it smells bad, even the case law will use a smell test and they'll call it that. They'll say, wow, this seems fishy. This smells bad. If you think the public might think it's unfair or that you're getting an unfair advantage, or potentially someone in your family, or you think you can't be impartial on something, or you're given gifts because you're a public official, those are all red flags. And my recommendation is you get an ethics opinion. When you're in doubt of what your ethical responsibilities are, This, you might want to talk to Jesse first. Jesse has a ton of experience and can help weed out whether she thinks something should be done, and that could be very helpful. But if you really need a legal opinion on these legal standards, this is one area where you can contact me directly. And I can give you an ethics opinion. This is under state law. Under state law, I can give you a confidential ethics opinion that only you will know. And if you act in accordance with the opinion I give you, you're presumed to have acted lawfully. There are also a number of crimes that you should be aware of. And I do encounter these. I have had public officials pursued for these crimes, charged and convicted. Starting on page 26, bribery of public officers and employees. You can't let people give you special privileges or gifts. 28, on page 28, misconduct in public office. We see these charges from now and again, where public officials can be charged with a felony based on their conduct in office. Intentionally failing or refusing to perform a known, mandatory, non-discretionary ministerial duty is a crime. Or doing an act which you know is in excess of your authority. That's a crime. Page 30, private interest in public contracts. If your business happens to do something that the city needs, maybe I don't know, maybe your company lays sewer lines and the city needs a sewer line. Maybe you want to offer that up. You need to closely look at this private interest in public contract prohibited section starting on page 30. If you're going to get paid or your organization of which you are associated has a specific definition. It's not just that you work there, but if you own it, you have an ownership interest in a company. This may apply. I got contacted on a Saturday morning from somebody who said, gee, I realized that I did this and now I'm wondering if it was okay. And I came into the office and worked half a day and ended up getting back to him and say, you better retire right now. You better resign because I don't want to see you charged. So just be careful about private interest in public contracts. So thinking about gifts on page 34, it's 5:45, but we started at 5 after, so I'm still on.
Couple more
on
things
page-
to go over, but yeah.
Page 34, know this little framework for thinking about if somebody offers you a gift. Is it being offered because of my public position? Is it more than nominal or insignificant value? Is it primarily for my personal benefit rather than for the benefit of my local governmental unit? You answer yes to those three, you can't accept it. And on page 35, a separate analysis is, would it be reasonable for someone to believe that the item or service is likely to influence my judgment or actions, or that it is a reward for past action? If you answer yes, you can't accept it. So any questions? I guess there are a few more things here, but let's stop there. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Welcome to, for those of you that are new, welcome to the council. It really is not that frightening. If you're getting a message of this is really scary, that's not the message I wanted to send. I want to send the message that you need to be aware of these things. Staff is also aware. Staff can help you, and we want to help you. We want you to succeed. So that's it.
Eric, one real quick question. Is there any time that gifts are acceptable? Say Christmas time, they want to drop off cookies or holiday stuff like that. Is there any time when accepting gifts is acceptable?
So in the example of dropping off Christmas cookies, it's typically not for any one person. It's typically for the whole staff, and that is, I don't see that being analyzed the same way. If you look at this this series of questions, it's not being offered primarily for your personal benefit. It's being offered for the staff. You know.
Alrighty.
And it's also nominal value.
Sure.
I have a question for you, Eric.
Yeah.
So I'm currently the president of a 501c3 that is an organization trying to raise money for an effort that we as the council may be discussing, which is the saving of the pool. Would I need to abstain from vote on anything regarding the pool?
I guess I'm not aware of any quasi-judicial decisions that would need to be made there. So I wouldn't be worried about the bias component. The code of ethics is something we could look at. I think as president, you are associated with that organization.
Right.
Um,
And if you want to research it in deeper and get back to me, that's fine too.
yeah. So what would be helpful is if you could send me an email
Okay.
and describe your relationship to the organization and every fact that you think might be relevant. And I can issue you an opinion. I can only base my opinion on the facts you provide. So
Right.
It'd be most helpful to me, to you, if it were comprehensive.
Thank you.
And Eric, I would only add to that, I was also in a similar capacity as our farmers market president in the past. And it was determined that I should abstain from those because of conflict of interest or whatever scenario it was, but it was directed that I abstain from any voting related to my position. Or related to our organization, I should say.
Yeah. That's very possible. It depends on all of the facts, of course, but you know.
All right, any other last questions for Eric? If not, thank you, Eric, for being with us tonight and answering questions, and
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
All right, we will be moving on to the, sure,
These books, you probably got one last year. If you know where it is and still have it, I'll take this one back. If you need it, take it. But if you already have one, I'll keep it on hand.
it's been fine.
But the handouts are new, right?
Handouts are new, yep, and not related to this. These are just some things that the law firm has said you guys should be aware of.
All right, then we will move on to number 4, which is the election of the council president. So at this time, we will look for a nomination for president. Again, president, for those of you who are unaware, will lead meetings. When the time calls, if I'm unavailable to be here, if there's certain meetings that need to have a president representation, maybe with Jesse or anything else, but mainly it's someone representing us in my absence.
I would like to nominate myself as president. I have experience with sitting in that seat, running Robert's rules on meetings, and I feel comfortable doing it.
Does anybody want a second Victoria's nomination?
I'll second.
Okay, so all in favor of Victoria as council president, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, thank you. On to number 5 is mayoral appointments with council confirmation. Recommendation is motion to approve the mayoral appointments as presented. We have had several, I know it's not highlighted on these sheets, but we've had several new people step up for committees and boards, commissions, which is great. We still do have some vacant spots left that we need to fill. But one that I also want to clarify tonight, so I've kind of placed you guys at check to see what works with availability and whatnot. I've placed you guys as liaisons to the commissions on that second page. We have one spot open for, I guess, 2 spots. Community Development Authority has not met in several years. I'm not appointing anybody. I'm leaving that one open. If we need to fill it in the future, we can. But Sewer and Water Commission meets the last Wednesday of the month at 4:30. I know you guys all have at least one commission that you're going to be serving as a liaison on. Is there anybody that would be willing to be that point of contact, that liaison for water and sewer as well? Understanding, I know everybody's schedules are crazy. And even if it's, you know, if you have to miss a couple, this is not an obligation, this is not something that is in the ordinance that states you have to do these. It's just a good practice for us to keep that line of communication within the words.
Which I'm teaching at that time.
And if not, we'll move on, but does anybody have that availability to do the last Wednesday at 4:30 for water and sewer?
I was gonna say, I can keep that one.
Okay,
That is one of the easiest ones.
it is, it's a great entry level.
It is, if a new person can make it, I highly suggest.
They are very efficient, nice, quick meetings. They know what they're doing.
Going to 5 o'clock is a long meeting.
Yeah. Great, well, then we will, I penciled Missy Marson in there for water and sewer, thank you.
When is the Community Development Authority, when do they meet?
Never,
Oh, they never meet.
They haven't.
or they haven't, there's not even a really committee anymore, that's why I left it off.
Okay.
So with that, as long as everybody is okay with that, we are looking for a motion then.
I'll make a motion to approve the mayoral appointments as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Terry, second by Samantha, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. On to number 6, looking for an adjournment motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Sam, second by Missy, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, meeting adjourned at 5:55 p.m.
5 minutes to.
For the next meeting.